Dr. Peterson, when people talk about censorship, I think about you right away and stuff that you've been suffering from and what Elon Musk was able to do. Unmask the censorship that's been taking place for years, whether it's the laptop or whether it's the pandemic. Your thoughts about what a good FCC chairman would do? As meanwhile, incoming FCC chair Brendan Carr is ready to dismantle the censorship cartel, in his words, and restore free speech rights for everyday Americans. Dr. Jordan Peterson exhales because he knows about censorship firsthand, having dealt with it himself in 2 countries. He's also the author of a brand new book, quote, We Who Wrestle with God. Dr. Peterson and his brilliant daughter, Mikhaila, talk about that and more. Dr. Peterson, when people talk about censorship, I think about you right away and stuff that you've been suffering from and what Elon Musk was able to do. Unmask the censorship that's been taking place for years, whether it's the laptop or whether it's the pandemic. Your thoughts about what a good FCC chairman would do?
Well, I think at minimum, he should ensure that we know how the algorithms operate on social media networks and how things are promoted and how things are hidden. Because the real danger, one of the real dangers that confronts us is that our discourse is going to be mediated by intelligent systems whose mechanisms are completely hidden from us. And that actually interferes with our perception, not just our conceptions, because what we see is pre-screened in ways that are invisible to us and increasingly automated. And that's not a good harbinger for the future, let's say. So transparency with regards to how things are promoted and demoted, that would be real helpful.
Right. Here's Brendan Carr in his own words.
There's a couple of top issues. Number one is looking at tech censorship. You know, free speech is the bedrock of our democracy. And there's been this unprecedented surge in censorship over the last couple of years. And we need to restore Americans' First Amendment rights. Number two is to look at our approach to media. I think the status quo, particularly when it comes to legacy media, needs to change.
Mikhaila, I'm sure you could see eye to eye with that. When I just saw a new study by Pew Research that say 30% of young people get their news from influencers online.
Yeah, I mean, we also have a bit of a problem with how many people get their news from TikTok, because we don't even know how the TikTok algorithm works and whether news is getting pushed onto that. So, I mean, transparency there would be good, but hopefully this guy can bring about some change.
Dr. Peterson, it was not unpredictable, but when he invited journalists in like Matthew Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi, when he bought Twitter to expose the Twitter files, and he saw the manipulation from the FBI to people like Adam Schiff, that got him on the bad list with everybody. He teams with Trump. He's off that bad list, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, well, it turns out that Elon Musk knew what he was doing when he bought Twitter. He's generally a bad man to bet against, I would say. You know, you see pundits constantly describing how Elon Musk is making mistakes. And I think, well, you know, God willing, you'd make the kind of mistakes that Elon Musk makes. It's so interesting to watch X emerge to dominate, too. And you know, that's the case around the world increasingly. We'll see what happens as a consequence of his alliance with Trump.
Do you feel like you're unleashed, Dr. Peterson? Do you feel like you've gotten through the worst times when the Canadian government was cracking down on you?
We'll see. My license in Canada is still threatened. I'm still in the middle of a intense battle with Ontario College of Psychologists and Behavior Analysts, and to call them unreasonable is to barely even scratch the surface. I guess I'm pleased about that battle in some regards, because all of the things that they're accusing me of are things that have turned out to be I was on the side of the angels, let's say. So, for example, they're after me because of my opposition to the promotion of this mutilating trans surgery for children. And the fact that I was an early adopter of that objection is looking pretty damn good. So, but no, it's by no means over, not in the least. They want to re-educate me. They're organizing that right now, although the details have still remained, you know, frustratingly unclear. Trudeau in Canada is doubling down on the free speech front in a terrible way.
You guys got to get rid of him. Real quick, Mikhaila, what's it like watching your dad go through this, knowing he's probably the smartest person you've ever met? And I could say that from an outsider, and you could say it from a biased perception and be 100% correct. Was that tough for you to see?
I can't even describe how stressful it was, especially our views of mainstream media changed during that period when we saw that they were publishing lies about my dad. But every time something negative came out, it changed people's perception of my family around us, which was awful. So it was incredibly stressful. I would say, Dad's still in the midst of it with the college in Canada, and Canada is not heading in a positive direction like America is. But at least people are more wary, I think, of what they read online. So our lives, I would say, have gotten much less stressful than they were a couple of years ago. I think we could kind of feel the tide turning about a year ago, that being pro freedom of speech and talking about trans issues, that started to get less offensive. So
Right.
I'm more positively probably inclined than my dad.